Tonight, the $2 billion Sino-Hydro controversy and why only $100 million has so far been drawn down to fix critical roads across the country, including the traffic-prone Adenta Dodowa stretch.
If they are not able to dualize this road, at least they're connecting roads, they should construct them.
The Sino-Hydro agreement is dead.
That is not true. If you are not able to pay, government will have to step in. But we can't default, and we will not default.
We have the latest, and we tell you what's happening with the remaining lots that may affect a part of the road that you drive on.
This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
And Top Story is always brought to you by Gasim Cement, the nation builder. It was a major source of controversy in 2017 when government first announced it had secured a $2 billion barter arrangement with China to fix critical roads and other infrastructure across the country. 3 years on, the Sino-Hydro deal is still dividing opinions as it emerged today that only $100 million of the deal has been drawn down. So what happened to the Sino-Hydro money and the projects it was to fund? I have been finding out in the following report for Total Recall.
Traffic, crazy snaking traffic. As far as the eyes can see, and as you can see behind me, this is the Adenta Dodowa Road. It used to be pretty easy to drive on in the morning and in the evening, but it has become a hotspot for traffic and a great border for those who live on this stretch. There are sprawling communities coming up on this stretch. This all the way to Oyibi, you have Ashiye, and then you also have places on this stretch with upscale middle-class residential areas, which has become pretty attractive for the middle class. The reason why in the last 2 years, this road is possibly one of the most traffic-prone areas in the Greater Accra region. What people have to do in the morning is wake up as early as 3 and 4 a.m. and avoid the main road, because if you stay on the main road, it's going to take you more than 3 hours to make a stretch that would ordinarily take you 20 minutes to travel. So what they do is find alternative routes. Now, this is one of the alternative routes that those who live on this stretch, who have to, on the daily basis, deal with the crazy traffic, have resorted to. These routes, as you can see in the background, is terrible in its own nature. It's not asphalted at all. It has gullies in it. It has craters in it. But people have to bear with that. That is the only way you can dodge the traffic. And it snakes by itself through the meandering communities in the connecting routes that join the main road. And so many have had to resort to this, as you see in the background, risking their own cars, their own health, and of course, having to pump a lot of money in repairing vehicles. For those who live in this particular community and on the stretch from Adenta all the way to Oyibi and Dodowa and beyond, it has become a living hell. But this is one of the roads that was touted a few years back as one that has been approved under the Sino-Hydro deal. It was supposed to have started years ago, but it hasn't started. The promise to get this road fixed and dualized, which was approved by Parliament as part of the first lot of the Sino-Hydro deal, hasn't materialized. And many of the residents in this area and in this community on the stretch are still hopeful that it will happen, that the politicians will keep their promise.
It's very bad. Every day, every time in the day, it's bad.
So what do you do? I mean, I see that you've been trying to dodge it.
Okay, so I live at the Regimental Estate, so I have to go round and round, and the road at the back is so bad. So it's very difficult.
How early do you have to wake up just to dodge the traffic and get into town?
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
Children ready by 7 so that we can leave home. If they are not able to dualize this road, at least the connecting roads, they should construct them. It would help. Actually, it's bad during the day, at certain times in the day, even on weekends. Yeah, it's bad. It's so bad. They need to help us.
In 2018, the Adenta Dodowa Road was one of 10 lots approved under the Chinese-sponsored Sino-Hydro deal. It was scheduled to begin in 2019. 2 years on, the road remains undone, in a complete state of disrepair, and with traffic congestion worse than anything you have ever experienced anywhere, all day, every day. The $2 billion Sino-Hydro deal was touted as the unprecedented arrangement to fix Ghana's infrastructural needs and modernize our roads.
Roads are a major issue for Ghana. Everywhere you go, it's roads and roads and roads. But when we were in opposition, the government at the time was telling us they've done all the roads. They showed us the roads in the Green Book. But when we came into office, the roads are not there. And so we had to find a new way. And the Sino-Hydro agreement is one way we are going to find to make sure our roads are done all across Ghana.
Well, fair to say, the Sino-Hydro dream has not traveled to China to seal the deal in 2017, a barter arrangement that will see the Chinese spend $2 billion to fix Ghana's infrastructure. In return, Ghana will pay back with proceeds from refined bauxite.
Evans, interestingly, honestly, I think it's dead.
Keso Atafosing is ranking member on the Finance Committee in Parliament.
I think it's a special structure which is going to solve our infrastructure problems. It's certainly not going to be a loan, but a barter system, dollars over a period of time. Parliament approved an agreement for them to bring in the first round. So that's, for me, after so many years, I can conclude that the Sino-Hydro agreement is dead.
On 21st November 2018, Information Minister Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah announced that the first tranche of $649 million from the $2 billion facility has been made available to Ghana to access. 3 years on, only about $80 million of this amount have actually been released to Ghana. Dr. Mutaka Alolo is the Director of Special Projects and Investor Relations at the Office of the Vice President.
The way the Sino-Hydro is structured, you don't get the money all given to you. So it is given per how much projects you have done. So out of the 6 lots that have been approved, works are ongoing. So at every stage they raise IPCs. So the 6 lots that have been approved, about 300 and something million, that's what has been approved. That's what hasn't been given to government. So the work needs to be done. Our engineers here will certify that this work has been done. Then they draw down the money. They pay, the banks pay the money. That is only then that it becomes a liability on us. So we have this, so far I think we've drawn down about almost...
The deal is a $2 billion facility, out of which $649 million was made available in the first tranche for Ghana to access. So to have accessed only $80 million in 3 years raises red flags. As it turns out, the Chinese again.
The bank will not just give you the money. If they give it to you, you can go and do anything else with it without...
So they want to see evidence of you actually started the project first?
Exactly.
Before they release the money? before you can access.
Because before you can take the money.
Before you can draw down.
The money has been released for a specific project.
To warrant the Chinese release of more Sino-Hydro funds. Out of the 10 projects approved by Parliament, none is yet to be fully complete. 6 have started, and at 2019 have not started at all since Parliament, by a resolution dated 28th July 2018, approved the Master Project Support Agreement. If you live on the Adenta Dodowa Road, Dr. Alolo says expect the project to start hopefully next year.
You know, as you are aware, last year was very slow. COVID literally slowed everything. China literally closed down for almost a year. So things were quite slow. So our side, what government is doing with this bauxite is government doesn't want to be in the future be burdened with the repayment of this. So as we are developing the whole integrated aluminium industry, then we make sure that the money we are drawing down for this project is in sync with that. When the repayments are due, we have enough funds to be able to assess that. So COVID kind of had an impact on the whole integrated aluminium side, and also the slowness in China as well in terms of their economic activity. So we had to kind of adjust. So those 4 laws that are yet to start, that the Adenta Dodowa is part of it. So that hopefully we will get it going by maybe, I'm not sure, towards next year or something, we'll get it started.
Unlike the Adenta Dodowa Road, the Tamale interchange, also financed under the Sino-Hydro arrangement, is well and truly on its way to completion. But even here, there has been delays.
In Tamale interchange, in fact, Tamale interchange should have really been completed by now, but there was a bit of hindrance with right of way where Zenith Bank building was in the middle. So it took us a long time to get that resolved. That has been done now, so it is ongoing, and hopefully by the end of the year that will be completed.
Okay. My colleague Batina Bugri, as part of this Total Recall episode, has been to the interchange site to see for herself progress of work. She spoke to Hassan Ibn Abdallah, who is a safety officer in charge of the project.
I can boldly tell you it's about 90% completely done. I think this is how I've got it so far.
And what is left?
Approximately, let's say 10%, because we are expecting by December this month and this year, we should have the bridge joined together. You can see we are in pieces. We have them in pieces, which we are going to put them together by December, hopefully.
Beyond just putting the pieces together, is there any additional
work? Yes, we have additional works, because as you can see, we have the partition. Looking at the road, we have the walls on the left and then on the right, and there is a partition in the middle. So those walls will be built within, by the time this bridge will join together, we are expecting maybe somewhere June, July. The other supplements will also get completed.
Across the country, 5 other Sino-Hydro projects are also at various stages of completion. Well, for residents on the Adenta Dodowa Road, they cannot wait any longer. If it's gonna happen, then it must happen now. It's so live here on Top Story. It's on Joy 99.7 FM, and indeed that's a sense there of where the Sino-Hydro deal is. Tonight at 8:30 on television, the full documentary again will be aired. You could have your thoughts on this, especially if you live on the Adenta Dodowa stretch. I want you to get in touch with me. Send me a WhatsApp 055-1111-997. Let me hear all your thoughts on this. Joining me on the telephone line right now is Dr. Mutaka Alolo, is the Director of Special Projects and Investor Relations at the Office of the Vice President. Also joining me is a ranking member on Parliament's Roads and Transport Committee, Mr. Kwame Agboja. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time. Dr. Alolo, let me confirm with you. When we last spoke, we had drawn down $80 million Today, we've had an update of $100 million. If you can just quickly confirm that.
Yeah, I think we've done more than $100 million now.
And so where we stand now with the 100 million, how do we explain so let's break this down a bit more. How do we explain why out of 2 billion, 650 or so million was released to us, but we've only managed to draw down 100 million?
Yeah, I think this explanation, I just have to get used to it. I'll do it over and over again. Basically, to understand this, you need to first of all understand the structure of the whole transaction. The transaction was structured in the sense that government will get Sino Hydro to undertake infrastructure projects for us today in return for proceeds of bauxite. And we first of all signed a master project support agreement that went to Parliament for approval. Subsequent to that, we signed, that was the entire 2 billion envelope, that this is something we want to do with Sino Hydro of China. Subsequent to that, 10 EPC contracts were signed and 10 deferred payment agreements were signed, totaling about 650 million. That went to Parliament for approval. So out of that, even if you look at the agreement, in the agreement, they say that there are various commencement dates for the projects. There are certain conditions that need to be achieved before the project becomes effective. So there's a commencement date. So until both parties agree that the commencement date starts from X, then it hasn't commenced. So if you look at the first project, the first 4 projects, that's the Tamale Interchange, the Cape Coast and Western Region Inner City Road, the Ashanti and Western Inner Roads, that's the Nahine area, and the Eastern Corridor, the Purposeful Road. If you look, we had commencement on them from December 2019. So those projects started December 2019. These 4 projects started. And the way the transaction is structured in the way that when the money is made available to you, it's just like any infrastructure financing project. They don't give the money to you to go and use. You keep the money, and they keep the money, the bank keeps the money. As and when the project progresses, they pay for your certificate, your IPC. So the 100 million you are talking about, over 100 million we are talking about now, is the amount of work that has been done on the ground on all these Sino Hydro projects.
And whose responsibility is to ensure projects start earlier than the first one started in December 2019, so we can access more of the funds?
Who's what? Sorry, I didn't get that.
Whose responsibility is it to ensure that projects start early enough, progresses, so we can access the funds?
It's the responsibility of both parties. Like I said earlier, this transaction is structured on the back of bauxite and refined bauxite. So whilst we are drawing down to implement these projects, we also need to be mindful of the fact that a repayment date will get here soon. So we have to work on our integrated aluminium bauxite industry simultaneously. So this is structured in such a way that we are sure that by the time the first repayment is due and subsequent repayments, the bauxite arrangement would have been done. So proceeds of that will be used to repay this. So that is how this whole transaction is structured.
So then, is it accurate for the critics who say China wasn't releasing the funds because they see that we are not ready with the bauxite part of the arrangement?
Why would you say China isn't releasing the funds? I have just said that China, in fact, we have approval, 6 projects have commenced. They are all working. The funds are there. So as and when the work progresses, then the funds will be drawn down. The works are at various stages of completion. So the money has been made available. But as and when those that have been approved, as and when they raise certificates, then the payment will be made.
So talking about money being made available, it's a fact that $646 million was the first tranche that was made available, correct?
Right.
Out of which that is what was supposed to cover the first lot that was approved. Correct?
Yeah, so we had 646 million. That was the envelope as the first
to cover the first lot.
That went to Parliament for approval.
Yes.
Then out of that, we have commenced 6 of the projects, totaling about 336 million USD.
So the question is, if we had 646 for the 10 lots,
Right.
which was available for us to access,
Right.
why haven't we started the one of them, which is let's narrow it down to the Adenta Dodowa Road, for example?
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. That the envelope, in fact, the entire envelope for the project is 2 billion. Out of the 2 billion, we signed EPC contracts for 646, and this EPC contract of 646, they are all supposed to start on different dates, subject to how we are also moving with our bauxite industry. So we have 300 and about 36 million projects that have been approved and commenced. The remaining lots, 3 of the lots recently, we just got we got information that it has also been done. The work has been done on it. We're waiting for formal documentation for the project to start, which we are expecting to start sometime next year, early next year, or towards the end of this year.
Yeah, but in 2020 budget, government went to Parliament and said to Parliament, for example, that the Adenta Dodowa Road and other lots that were not started, we're going to start in the first quarter of 2020. We missed that deadline.
You mean government went to Parliament and said the Adenta Dodowa will start first quarter of 2020?
That deadline has clearly been missed. That project hasn't started.
Well, like I have been saying, or like I'm saying, that these projects have different timelines for start.
But that was the timeline. But that was the government timeline.
First quarter of 2020. That is a different thing. But as we sit now, that hasn't started. It will start towards the early part of next year. That's when the remaining projects will start.
Yeah, but that is the question I'm asking. The government's own timeline, as it told Parliament for the Adenta Dodowa and others under that, was first quarter 2020. It didn't start.
It goes through a process. These things go through a process. And the process is between China and Ghana. They have to agree on certain things, and they have to make certain documentations and stuff ready. So as and when they are done, if it hasn't started, that means it hasn't been done. And I haven't said it has started. What I'm saying, it hasn't started. It's clearly that Adenta Dodowa Road dualization hasn't started, and it is expected to start early next year. The remaining 6 have started and are currently ongoing and at various stages of completion. Adenta Dodowa hasn't started.
I guess the question I'm asking is, why hasn't that started, although government had communicated a clear timeline of first quarter 2020?
Like I said, it goes through a process, various approval processes. That hadn't been approved by then. That's why it hasn't started. And we have to implement this project, like I said as well, in such a way that when the repayments are due, we have enough proceeds from bauxite for the repayment. That's the whole thing. That's what the whole thing is about. That's how this project was structured, to be able to use proceeds from bauxite. So we have to program it in such a way that it coincides with the development of our industry and the aluminium industry. The Gear Deck, which is the establishment that was set up to see through the integrated aluminium industry, recently announced their partnership with a company to start the development of the industry. So you need to give yourself some timeline rather than starting all the projects today. And when the repayment is due, you will not have enough funds for the repayment. So that is how it has been programmed, to start in phases.
Mr. Agboja is the ranking on the Transport and Roads Committee in Parliament. Mr. Agboja, so the evidence says that 6 have started, 4 have not started, and as you just had the update, the remaining are supposed to start either late this year or beginning of next year.
Thanks. Good evening to you, and good evening to my colleague on the other side and your listeners. First of all, I'm a bit confused. It appears Dr. Alolo is speaking from a different agreement from what we signed in Parliament. In fact, around May, the Ministry of Road and Highways met the Committee of Parliament and reported that at that time, only $36 million was drawn down. Evans, I doubt if between May and today, government has been able to draw down about $70 million on this account. If Mr. Alolo or Dr. Alolo has any evidence that actual work done is about $100 million, let him present the evidence to you. And then I'll present the evidence that the ministry presented to Parliament, the Committee of Road and Transport, when we try to take of the activities and what is done so far.
Honorable, when was this presented to you in Parliament?
You see, the difficulty I have is that I expected somebody from the road ministry who took part in the thing together of the project and who brought to Parliament to be speaking to it. So I'm having difficulty because I don't know where you fit in the scheme of Sino-Hydro. I don't know how come, and I've complained about this. How come the office of the Vice President is the one talking about procurement and everything when Ministry of Road and Highways was the one who is supposed to be, or agency to be doing this project? So why isn't the Deputy Minister?
It is the same government. So government can begin to appoint
anybody. Dr. Lolo, give me a second. Ms. Agboja,
what I just want to know is, at what point in Parliament, when did the information that 70 million was disbursed come to you?
If you allow the directors and the Deputy Minister of Road and Highways to speak to it, they will tell you exactly the date and the documents they presented to us.
Well, Dr. Agboja, Dr. Lolo, hold on. Dr. Lolo, hold on.
In my submission, I made it known that there is
Dr. Lolo, Dr. Lolo, hold on for me.
So
hold on for me.
A document to you that say 70 million has been drawn down. Then the following day it increases.
Dr. Lolo, you want to hold on for me briefly. Ms. Agboja, you mentioned that in May, a committee, it was presented to the committee that they've drawn down 36, you said?
36 million.
36. So you're saying that this was given to the committee in May?
Yes.
Okay, by the
road minister, the minister himself was around, and all the directors.
Okay, so Dr. Lolo, that's your answer?
So I am putting it to Dr. Lolo that I doubt the strength of his so-called 100 million drawdown. So between May and today. That is the second thing.
But you see,
Dr. Lolo, just a second. Just a second. I'll come to you briefly. I'll come to you, yes.
Yes. I also hear him saying that the projects have been structured in such a way that the drawdown should correspond with some the way we process bauxite and other things. The document we approved in 2018 hasn't got any clause in there suggesting that the drawdown or the EPC contract will be implemented based on how we produce bauxite and sell it and get the proceeds. Nothing. In fact, there's a reason we write contracts for projects. And none of the things that Dr. Lolo said so far is part of the project. He also said that it is also structured that the project should be implemented by phases. How do you say it? Evans, the only thing in that contract that talks about commencement date or the project duration is in clause 5. And let me read to you what it says. It says the project, how do you call it, is expected to be completed within 24 months. Because earlier I even heard Dr. Lulu say the project was supposed to be completed in 3 years. On your next spoke around 3 o'clock, which is false. The projects are supposed to be completed in 24 months, not in 3 years. And it says this, 24 months from the commencement date. He says, it goes on. It is expected that the financing arrangement will be completed by December 31st, 2000, prior to the commencement of all the projects. So, where is this thing that the projects are supposed to be staggered? No. All the 10 projects are part of phase 1. In fact, Evan, it will interest you to go and take the hand of that day to see the comments colleagues made warning government that Sino-Hydro does not have the capacity to carry out all these projects. And they insisted. They do. They show us all the evidence. Thirdly, Evan, I also heard you talk about how project progress. As a matter of fact, the smallest project in the first phase is Ofuansi, how do you call it, New Ebrim Ofuansi Kuma Road, which is 38 kilometers for $30.4 million. The second smallest project is the Tamale Interchange, which is $35.2 million. So in effect, you are dealing with one of the smallest projects in the first phase of the 10 lots, yet you haven't been able to finish that one. And we are supposed to be talking. And by the way, Evans, you remember we worked it out that the Sino-Hydro, as of the time we signed this agreement, was one of the most expensive to take the flyovers out. Was about $1 billion. So it was for the Chinese. Yet they are not able to do this. So where from these things that it was scheduled that 6 should start and 4 shouldn't start, that is not part of the agreement approved in Parliament. And when Parliament approves agreement, we expect those agreements to be implemented according to the way we expect it. So Dr. Alulu, who is not an implementing agency, cannot tell us that they have decided to implement a different structure from what Parliament approved. 80% of what he said is not based on any part of the contract. So I have difficulty debating him because I don't know where his facts are coming from.
Let me
from the minister, a director, or anybody, or project manager was to be fixed to this, then I'll point him to the document they presented. But since Dr. Alolo didn't come in the structure of it, it's difficult for me to find out what he's about to.
Let me bring him in, Dr. Alolo. Your response.
All right, Ivan. So first of all, to respond to Honorable, when you say in May you were presented with 30 million, and between May and now you doubt that we have drawn down up to 100 million. That, I think, is an information that you can easily get. But like I said, every day construction is ongoing. You could be presented with a figure today, and the following day they present a certificate that increases the figure. And I can tell you on authority that work that have been done on all the 6 lots is over 100 million now. The certificates that have been submitted. In fact, that doesn't even include certificates that are at various stages of processing, because it has to go through.
But Dr. Alolo, the certificates you said have been submitted. Have they been drawn? Have they been drawn down? Dr. Alolo, if you just clarify, you said the certificates have been submitted. Have they been actually drawn down? Yes.
What I'm saying is over 100 million of certificates have been drawn down. That doesn't even include certificates that are even still. So this figure that I'm giving you today, tomorrow it could change. Once Ministry of Finance approves it, Minister of Roads and Minister of Finance approves it, then they draw down. So it's at various stages of implementation. So what if they present something to you in May, and today we are telling you this is how much we have drawn down? In fact, as of May, the other 2 projects that are currently ongoing had not started fully. It was only 4 projects that was ongoing very well. But by May, the rest had been approved, and they had also started small. So as we go on, or as it goes on, the rate of disbursement will increase because all the projects are beginning to start, and they are at various stages of completion. So that this figure you can easily verify. And also, if you look in the agreement was structured in such a way that from the Master Project Support Agreement and the Deferred Payment Agreement, that proceeds of refined bauxite is going to be used as repayment for these Sino-Hydro projects. That is what is in the agreement. That's what was brought into Parliament. And in case government of Ghana, at the point of repayment, doesn't have proceeds from bauxite, then they will step in. Of course, that's more like a guarantee. But if Honorable says there's nothing like that in the contract, I don't know which contract he's reading, because it's in the Deferred Payment Agreement, and it is also in the Master Project Support Agreement.
This is something that we intend to interrogate a bit more at 9 p.m. on PM Express, and of course you've heard both sides, but at the heart of it is about the people and the projects. You've seen the Tamale interchange, you've seen that Denta Dodo. I want to hear from you, 055-111-11997. Kwame Agboja, who is the ranking on the Transport and Roads Committee, thank you very much. Dr. Alolo with the Office of the Vice President, grateful as well. Still ahead here on Newsnight.
Presidency